high in the gentle arms of an old oak tree, where the branches swayed like lullabies in the night breeze, there stood a little treehouse. Its wooden walls glowed softly from the light of lanterns hanging at the doorway, and its windows shimmered with curtains stitched from star-patterned cloth. The air smelled of pine and fresh moss, and from inside came the quiet creak of floorboards as someone moved about. Inside the treehouse, a small squirrel named Nilo was fluffing his pillow of autumn leaves. He had gathered them one by one, choosing only the softest, and now he placed them carefully inside his cozy bed. The bed sat by the round window, where he could peek out at the moon whenever he wanted. Tonight, the moon looked especially kind, smiling down with its silvery glow, and Nilo felt his heart slow into a calm rhythm. He padded across the little wooden floor, his tail swishing softly behind him. On the shelf, he kept a row of pine cones polished smooth, and each one held a tiny memory, one from the meadow, one from the riverbank, one from the edge of the mountains. He touched them lightly with his paw, as though telling them good night, before setting a candle glowing low beside them. Outside, the wind whispered through the leaves, a hush-hush sound that made the whole forest feel like it was rocking gently. Fireflies danced near the ladder, their lights twinkling like stars that had come closer just to say hello. An owl hooted once in the distance, not sharp or startling, but low and warm, like a bedtime reminder. Nilo curled up on the little rug near his bed, waiting for sleep to arrive. Yet, something in the night felt different. The branches shifted in a way that carried a new sound, soft, melodic, almost like a song drifting from far away. It wasn't the breeze, it wasn't the brook below. It was something magical, weaving itself into the air, calling gently toward the treehouse. The little squirrel sat up, his ears twitching, his heart curious but calm. He padded to the window, pressing his nose to the cool glass. The forest glowed softly under the moonlight, but between the trees he saw something flicker, a trail of tiny lights, moving like a ribbon winding its way through the woods. The song grew clearer now, wrapping itself around him like a blanket of notes, inviting him, beckoning him, welcoming him to follow. Nilo blinked slowly, his tail curling around him. He felt warm, safe, and somehow certain that this glowing path and the song belonged to the kind of dreams that only appeared once the night was ready to whisper its secrets. And so he leaned back against the window frame, his eyes wide and sleepy, ready to see where the trail of light would lead. Nilo stood at the round window for a long while, his little paws pressed against the glass as he gazed at the shimmering trail below. The song drifting through the branches was soft and soothing, like the sound of water trickling over smooth stones mixed with the hush of wind through tall grass. It made his whiskers twitch and his chest feel full of warmth. The fireflies near the ladder seemed to be waiting, hovering in a loose circle, their lights pulsing in time with the melody. At last, Nilo padded back across the creaking wooden floor of his treehouse. He tugged his little scarf from its peg near the door, a scarf knitted from tufts of moss and threads of bark fiber, dyed the color of twilight. Wrapping it snugly around his neck, he stepped out onto the small balcony. The air kissed his fur, cool but not cold, carrying the sweet smell of pine needles and wildflowers from the meadow beyond. He climbed carefully down the rope ladder, each rung swaying gently, until his paws touched the mossy earth. The song grew clearer now, wrapping itself around him like a lullaby meant just for his ears. The trail of lights curved softly between the roots of trees, glowing golden and silver, winding deeper into the forest. Nilo's paws padded across the ground soundlessly, the moss springy beneath him. He followed the ribbon of light as it drifted slowly forward, never hurrying, never rushing, as though it knew he needed time to marvel at everything around him. The trees seemed taller tonight, their branches swaying with a rhythm that matched the song. When the wind passed, it carried a whisper of words, gentle sounds that made him think of rest and peace and safe. Along the path, he found little wonders waiting. At the edge of a hollow stump, a family of glow mushrooms lit up as he passed, each one shining faintly blue, like stars hiding under the earth. Nilo crouched to sniff them, smiling when their light flickered in greeting, as though they recognized him. A few steps later, a pair of rabbits peeked from their burrow. Their ears drooped sleepily, but their eyes glowed with the reflection of the song's trail. They didn't speak, but they seemed comforted just by the presence of the light, settling back into their nest with a sigh as Nilo continued on. The deeper he walked, the more magical the forest became. Little streams trickled beside him, their waters glowing faintly gold where the song touched them. The rocks in the stream looked like polished gems, smooth and shining. Above, owls dozed on branches with their wings puffed like pillows, their eyes blinking lazily as though the tune had lulled them into half-dreams. Even the insects hummed in rhythm, the crickets chirping like tiny violinists playing along with the melody. Nilo tilted his head back and noticed something even more wondrous. The ribbon of lights he followed wasn't only on the ground. Some parts lifted high into the branches, weaving among the leaves like garlands. They shimmered and swayed, dripping little sparks of starlight that floated down like snowflakes. He reached out with his paw, catching one, and felt it melt against his fur, leaving behind a warmth that spread through his whole body. It reminded him of curling up under his blanket in winter, safe and held. Soon, the path widened into a small clearing. The grass here was soft and tall, bending gently as though bowing to the crown of stars overhead. At the center of the clearing stood a circle of stones, smooth and round, with tiny flowers growing between them. The trail of lights wound its way into the circle, then swirled upward in a spiral, floating higher into the air until it touched the canopy. From above, the song poured down like rain made of sound, soft and steady, filling the clearing with a glow that seemed alive. Nilo stepped carefully into the circle of stones. The moment his paw touched the center, the light gathered closer, swirling around him like fireflies that wanted to hug. He blinked, his eyes wide and glistening, as shapes began to form in the golden haze. At first they were ripples, like mist curling in the morning sun, but slowly they became clearer, gentle figures woven from light, no taller than Nilo himself. They looked like dream spirits, their bodies soft and shimmering, their eyes round and kind. Their voices joined the song, not in words, but in hums, harmonizing in layers that wrapped around Nilo like a blanket. One of them floated closer, reaching out a hand that shimmered like dew. Nilo felt no fear, only comfort, as the spirit touched his paw. "You heard our song," the spirit whispered, its voice like a sigh through tall grass. "Few do. You must have a heart that listens." Nilo tilted his head, his tail swishing. It was so gentle. "I wanted to follow." The spirit smiled, a glow rippling across its body. "That is why you were called. Tonight, the forest is weaving its lullaby, and you have been chosen to walk among it. The path will show you peace, and at the end, your dreams will be softer than clouds." The other spirits hummed in agreement, their lights flickering like tiny lanterns in the night. The ribbon of light above the clearing pulsed brighter, then flowed out of the circle, stretching deeper into the woods, as though inviting Nilo to continue. He looked at the spirits once more, his little chest rising and falling in calm wonder. "Will I see more of this?" he asked softly. "Yes," the spirit said, drifting back into the circle. "Follow, and you will see where dreams are born." Nilo bowed his head, his scarf trailing softly across the moss. Then he turned and padded forward once again, following the glowing ribbon as it led him out of the clearing and deeper into the gentle arms of the night. The glowing ribbon of light stretched out of the clearing like a gentle river of starlight, winding deeper into the woods. Nilo followed it with quiet paws, his scarf swaying softly as he moved. The forest seemed to hush in respect for the path, every tree bowed slightly, every leaf rustled as if whispering a secret meant only for him. The song that had led him here was still present, but now it mixed with the sounds of the forest, the rhythm of crickets, the soft sigh of the wind, and the trickle of water weaving somewhere nearby. The ribbon of light began to climb upward, curling around a towering maple tree. Its trunk was wide, its branches thick, stretching like a staircase into the sky. Nilo tilted his head back, eyes glimmering with awe. The lights beckoned him to climb. Without hesitation, he placed his tiny paws against the rough bark and began to ascend. The tree seemed to help him, its bark forming natural steps, its knots becoming little footholds. His tail swished for balance, and soon he was climbing higher than he had ever dared before. The higher he went, the more magical the world became. Fireflies joined the ribbon of light, dancing alongside it as though guiding him up. Moss glowed faintly in the cracks of the bark, illuminating his way. The song of the forest grew lighter, as if blending with the stars above. By the time Nilo reached the broad branches, the night air felt different, thinner, softer, full of starlight itself. At last, he pulled himself onto a wide branch, and his breath caught in his chest. For nestled among the treetops was something he had never imagined, a village, hidden high above the ground. Little wooden houses clung to the branches, their roofs made of woven leaves, their walls glowing with lantern light. Rope bridges swayed gently between them, lined with flowers that shimmered faintly, as though each blossom held a spark of moonlight. The air smelled of honey and pine, and the sound of quiet laughter floated like music. The ribbon of lights led him to the entrance of the village, where a gate made of twigs and vines swung open on its own. Nilo stepped through, his heart racing not with fear, but with the wonder of finding a world that seemed made entirely of dreams. As he padded further in, tiny creatures emerged from the glowing homes. They were no larger than Nilo himself, but their forms were soft, almost transparent, like they were woven of light and air. Their eyes shone like stars, and their voices were hushed, as if they had been waiting for him. One of them, wearing a cloak stitched from petals, approached with a bow. "Welcome, Nilo," the creature said, its tone calm and full of kindness. "We are the branch folk, guardians of the treetop dreams. The Crown of Light chose you to visit tonight." Nilo blinked in surprise. "You know my name," he whispered. The branch folk smiled. "The forest told us. It whispers the names of those who listen. And you, little squirrel, listened well." The other branch folk gathered closer, surrounding him not in a crowd, but in a gentle circle. They hummed softly, their tones blending with the song of the ribbon above, until the whole village seemed to vibrate with peace. One of them offered Nilo a cup carved from acorn shell, filled with a glowing nectar that shimmered like liquid starlight. "Drink," the creature said softly. "It will fill your dreams with calm." Nilo lifted the acorn cup and sipped. The nectar tasted like warm honey mixed with the sweetness of ripe berries. As it slid down his throat, his whole body relaxed, his paws tingled with comfort, and his chest felt lighter than ever before. He let out a soft sigh, his whiskers twitching. The branch folk guided him along a rope bridge that swayed gently beneath his paws. Below, the forest floor seemed so far away it looked like a blanket of shadow. Above, the stars burned bright, so close he felt as though he could touch them. The bridge led to a great branch that held a circular platform. In the center of it sat a fountain, not of water, but of pure light. Streams of golden glow poured upward, curling into the air, then drifting down as tiny orbs that floated like feathers. "This," one branch folk whispered, "is the fountain of rest. It gathers the forest's peace and sends it into every dream. Tonight, it shines brighter because you are here." Nilo's eyes widened as he padded closer. The glow wrapped around him like a hug, and for a moment, he thought he could hear not just the song of the crown, but the sighs of every creature asleep in their nests below. Rabbits breathing deeply, fox cubs twitching in soft dreams, birds nestled under wings. The fountain carried all their rest, sending it higher, weaving it into the stars. He sat down before the fountain, curling his tail around himself. A droplet of light floated down and landed on his nose. It melted instantly, spreading warmth through his whole body. He yawned without meaning to, his eyelids fluttering, though he wanted to stay awake to see more. The branch folk began to sing, not loudly, not quickly, but with voices like wind through reeds. Their song matched the fountain's rhythm, a lullaby so soothing that even the branches seemed to sway with it. Rope bridges creaked softly, lanterns flickered gently, and the forest below hushed to listen. One branch folk leaned closer to Nilo. "You will return to your treehouse soon. But tonight, you carry the fountain's calm inside you. Wherever you sleep, its glow will follow." Nilo blinked slowly, his eyes heavy but full of gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thin and drowsy. The branch folk smiled, their forms shimmering like mist in moonlight. They bowed once more, then stepped back, letting the ribbon of light swirl again above the fountain. It pulsed brightly, as though ready to lead him onward. With one last look at the glowing village in the treetops, Nilo stood, his scarf trailing gently, and followed the ribbon once more. It curved away from the fountain, drifting higher into the sky, and he knew the journey was not yet complete. The night still had wonders to share. The ribbon of light lifted higher, twining itself around the tallest branches, and Nilo followed with careful steps, his paws padding softly along the wooden platform. The treehouse village glowed behind him like a constellation tucked among leaves, but the path ahead shimmered brighter, drawing him forward. With a gentle swish of his tail, Nilo steadied himself on the rope bridge that led away from the fountain, the planks creaking quietly under his tiny paws. The higher he climbed, the thinner the forest sounds became, until only the song of the ribbon lingered, like a soft hum guiding him. Soon, the path left the branches altogether, drifting out into the open air. Nilo blinked, his breath catching in awe. The ribbon of light had formed a bridge, woven of stars themselves, stretching across the sky. The stars beneath his paws were cool but steady, sparkling faintly with every step he took. He hesitated for just a moment, glancing down, but the world below was not frightening. It looked soft and far away, like a quilt of shadow stitched with silver rivers. The crown of night had folded the earth into slumber, and here, above it all, Nilo felt weightless. With each step on the star bridge, the ribbon's song grew gentler, threading into the air like a lullaby played by invisible hands. The constellations above seemed closer now, their shapes shifting slightly as though bowing to greet him. The Big Dipper twinkled like a lantern, Orion's belt shimmered like beads on a thread, and the North Star gleamed brighter, steady and kind, as if to say, "You are safe." As he padded along, the ribbon drifted into a sea of clouds. These clouds were not ordinary, each one glowed faintly from within, shaped into meadows, rolling hills, even small ponds that reflected the moon. When Nilo stepped onto one, it held him gently, sinking slightly like a mattress but lifting again to support his weight. His paws sank into its fluff, and he laughed softly, the sound carried away on the breeze like a feather. A gentle breeze rustled the clouds, and from the mist emerged creatures unlike any Nilo had seen. Cloud bunnies hopped lazily, leaving little puffs of vapor behind. A flock of cloudbirds drifted overhead, their wings stretched wide, their feathers dissolving into mist as they flew. One cloud bear yawned from a patch of glowing fog, curling up again almost instantly, its body shimmering faintly with starlight. All of them seemed unbothered by his presence, their eyes half closed, their movements slow and peaceful. One small cloudbird fluttered down, landing softly on Nilo's shoulder. Its body was so light he barely felt it, only the cool tickle of mist against his fur. It tilted its head and chirped, not sharply, but like a tiny sigh, and then nuzzled against his cheek. Nilo smiled, his heart glowing, and whispered, "Hello." The bird's eyes sparkled like dewdrops before it lifted off again, joining the others in the endless cloud sky. The ribbon of light guided him further, curving toward a vast plain of glowing mist. At the center of it rose something extraordinary, a great tree, taller than any in the forest, rooted not in soil, but in the clouds themselves. Its trunk shimmered like silver, its leaves made of translucent crystal that chimed softly whenever the breeze passed through them. Lantern fruits dangled from its branches, glowing golden like miniature suns. Nilo approached slowly, his whiskers twitching in awe. The ribbon circled the base of the tree before drifting upward along its trunk. He craned his neck, eyes wide. This was no ordinary tree, it was a gathering place of dreams. As he stared, he noticed glowing shapes caught in its branches. Tiny globes floated there, each one pulsing faintly. They were dreams, held safely like lanterns waiting to be carried into the night. One of the lanterns drifted lower, settling before him. Inside, he saw the image of a fox cub curled in its den, dreaming of chasing butterflies in a sunny field. Another lantern floated down, showing a little hedgehog dreaming of rolling through piles of leaves, giggling with joy. Dozens of lanterns swayed gently in the tree's branches, each one holding the quiet happiness of a sleeping creature somewhere below. From behind the glowing trunk, a figure emerged. It was tall and graceful, made not of cloud or light, but of the very fabric of night itself. Its robe shimmered with constellations, and its eyes glowed with the calm of 1,000 evenings. When it spoke, its voice was deep but slow, each word falling like a pebble into still water. "Welcome, little one," the figure said. "You have climbed beyond the forest, beyond the treetops, into the sky where dreams are woven. This is the Tree of Slumber, and it gathers every dream, keeping them safe until dawn." Nilo's heart fluttered. He bowed his head respectfully, his scarf trailing against the glowing mist. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The figure nodded slowly. "Few are invited to walk this path. But you heard the song, and you followed with kindness. Tonight, you are not only a dreamer, you are a guest among the keepers of dreams." The ribbon of light pulsed gently, as if agreeing, and wound itself upward into the branches of the great tree. Nilo followed, climbing onto a root that rose like a gentle ramp. The bark was smooth beneath his paws, warm like polished stone. The lanterns swayed softly as he passed, brushing his fur with faint glimmers of light. Each one hummed quietly, the sound of peaceful sleep from far below. When he reached the first great branch, he paused. The view stretched endlessly, the clouds glowing silver, the stars watching quietly. He could see everything: the forest far below, the river threading like glass through the hills, the tiny glow of his treehouse lantern in the distance. Yet here, in the arms of the Tree of Slumber, it all looked softer, calmer, as if wrapped in a blanket of night. The ribbon spiraled higher still, urging him upward. Nilo climbed slowly, his body heavy now, not with fear or weariness, but with the pull of rest. The air around him was thick with comfort, every breath filling his chest with warmth. His eyelids drooped, but he pressed on, knowing the path had one more wonder to reveal. The higher he climbed, the more the lanterns glowed. Their light was gentle, never glaring, but it filled the branches with a golden haze. He brushed against one and felt the image inside spill briefly into his mind, a rabbit dreaming of a meadow filled with clover, safe and endless. He smiled softly and whispered, "Sweet dreams." The lantern flickered once, as though replying. At last, the ribbon led him to a hollow nestled among the highest branches. It was a cradle of crystal leaves, their chimes ringing faintly, where a pool of light shimmered. The ribbon dipped into the pool, dissolving slowly, and the song that had carried him all this way hummed lower, quieter, like a lullaby reaching its final verse. Nilo stepped into the hollow, curling into the mossy bed that had formed at its edge. His scarf wrapped snugly around him, and his tail curled tightly to his chest. The pool of light glowed warmly, washing over him like the sun at dawn. His breaths grew slower, deeper, his eyes heavier. The figure of night spoke once more, its voice like the final note of a song. "Rest now, little one. The journey is nearly complete. Let the dreams you have seen fill your heart, and when you wake, carry their peace with you." Nilo's eyes fluttered shut, then opened once more, just long enough to see the lanterns swaying gently above, their glow reflecting in his sleepy eyes. He whispered faintly, "Thank you," though his voice was barely a breath. The ribbon pulsed one last time, then faded into the pool. The lullaby stilled. The Tree of Slumber sighed softly, and the clouds hushed around it. Nilo curled tighter, his heart glowing, ready for whatever came next. The pool of light in the hollow glimmered softly, and Nilo's small body relaxed deeper into the mossy bed. His breathing slowed until it matched the rhythm of the great tree's sighing leaves. But even in this drowsy peace, he felt the air shift slightly, something more was coming. The branches above rustled gently, though no wind stirred, and one of the golden lanterns began to drift down from the tree. It hovered slowly, as though cradled by invisible hands, until it came to rest before him. Inside the lantern was a dream, pulsing like a heartbeat. Nilo peered closer, his whiskers twitching. He saw a family of deer lying together in a meadow, their fawns nestled close under their mother's chin. Their eyes were closed, their bodies breathing in harmony, their dreams simple and safe. The sight filled Nilo's chest with warmth so deep that he had to press his little paws together, as if holding it in. The figure of night, the guardian draped in constellations, stepped closer. Its robes shimmered, starlight spilling from its hems like falling dust. Its voice came low and steady, each word stretched as though meant to last forever. This dream is a gift. The tree sends it to you, so you may carry peace into your own sleep. What you have seen tonight, what you have followed with gentle heart, becomes part of you now. The lantern drifted forward. It touched Nilo's chest, and instead of bouncing away, it melted gently into his fur. For a moment, his whole body glowed gold, the light threading into his heart. He gasped softly, not from surprise, but from the wave of comfort that washed over him, warm as sunlight, soft as a mother's hug. He felt as though he had become the deer in the dream, curled safely among family, forever held. His eyelids drooped, heavier than before, but he managed a whisper. "Will I keep it always?" "Yes," the guardian said, its voice like the hush of the tide. "Even when the stars fade from the sky at dawn, this light will remain. When you curl in your treehouse, it will glow inside you. When you close your eyes, it will open again, weaving dreams gentle enough to last until morning." The great tree stirred above, its crystal leaves chiming faintly, like hundreds of tiny bells whispering goodnight. More lanterns swayed softly, their light weaving together until the branches looked like a glowing sky within the sky. Nilo blinked, his eyes glossy with wonder. "It's so beautiful," he murmured, his words slipping like feathers into the still air. The guardian knelt, lowering its vast constellation-draped form until it was almost at Nilo's level. Its eyes glowed with a kindness so deep that Nilo felt himself sink into it. "You have walked far tonight, little one. You have seen where dreams are born and carried. But now, it is time to return. The crown of light will guide you home, back to your treehouse, back to your bed, where the lantern's glow will follow." At those words, the ribbon of light shimmered again, rising from the pool where it had dissolved. Slowly, gracefully, it reformed into the gentle path that had guided him all night. It pulsed softly, a beckoning heartbeat, pointing outward from the hollow. Nilo stood, though his legs trembled with drowsiness. His tail swished lazily, his scarf trailing like a ribbon of twilight. Before he turned to follow, he looked up at the guardian one last time. "Thank you for letting me see," he whispered, his voice faint but full of gratitude. The guardian bowed its head, a ripple of starlight passing over its robes. "It is not farewell, Nilo. Whenever you dream, you return here. The door of the treehouse opens into the Tree of Slumber, and the crown of light will find you again." Nilo's small heart swelled. He turned, padding softly toward the ribbon of light. The moss sank beneath his paws, the air full of the hush of glowing leaves. As he stepped onto the ribbon, it brightened, humming once more in its lullaby tone, and began to carry him downward. The descent was slow, dreamlike. The lanterns of the tree swayed above him, growing fainter as he drifted lower into the cloudlands. The ribbon stretched into the mist, guiding him past the slumbering cloud creatures once more. The bear curled tighter into its glowing fog, the rabbits hopped lazily in their sleep, and the birds circled gently with wings of mist. Each creature's dreams glowed faintly, as if the tree had touched them too. Nilo paused when a droplet of light floated down onto his nose again. This time, instead of simply warming him, it filled him with an image of his own treehouse, its lanterns glowing, its bed ready, its windows open to the night. He knew he was almost home. The ribbon carried him further down, toward the star bridge once more. He padded along its sparkling stones, each step steady, though his head dipped with sleepiness. The constellations above twinkled gently, as though nodding him onward. Orion's belt flickered brighter for a moment, then dimmed as if whispering, "Rest now." The North Star glowed steady, promising he would not lose his way. Finally, the ribbon drifted into the tops of the forest trees, winding downward through the branches until the familiar shapes of the woods returned. The brook glistened in the moonlight, the daisies in the meadow swayed as they had before, and the fireflies floated like little guardians awaiting him. His heart fluttered when he saw the outline of the oak tree where his treehouse stood, tall and strong against the night sky. The ribbon curved around its trunk, carrying him gently up the ladder. His paws touched each rung without effort, as though the ribbon itself was lifting him. The door to the treehouse creaked open before he even reached it, welcoming him with the glow of his small lantern inside. The ribbon pulsed once more, brighter this time, then slowly dissolved into the air, leaving only a golden spark that drifted down and vanished into Nilo's scarf. Inside, the treehouse was just as he had left it. The shelf of pine cones waited quietly, the curtains swayed softly in the breeze, and his bed of leaves glowed faintly in the lantern light. But now, everything seemed warmer, fuller, as though the glow from the dream tree had followed him here. Nilo yawned deeply, his jaw cracking with the sound of a tiny sigh. His body felt heavy, but in the most comforting way, like a pebble sinking slowly into water. He climbed onto his bed, curling into the nest of leaves, his scarf tucked beneath his chin. The lantern above flickered softly, casting golden shapes on the walls. The last thing he saw before his eyes closed was the moon, peeking through the round window, smiling kindly down at him. He whispered into the quiet, "Good-night, cozy treehouse." And then, with the glow of the lantern dream safe in his heart, he sank into slumber. The treehouse creaked softly, the forest hushed, and the stars watched over him. The journey was nearly complete, but the sweetest part was just beginning, his dreams, filled with the crown's light, carrying him into a night deeper than any before. The little squirrel lay curled in his nest of leaves, the soft scarf wrapped gently around his neck, the golden glow of the dream lantern still pulsing faintly inside his chest. His treehouse was quiet, the lantern above swaying gently in the breeze, casting shapes on the wooden walls that looked like dancing shadows. Outside, the oak tree creaked softly, rocking him the way a cradle rocks a child. Every sound in the night seemed designed to soothe him, the whisper of the wind, the rustle of leaves, the distant lull of the brook. But as Nilo drifted closer to sleep, something beautiful began to happen. The light inside him spread slowly outward, filling the whole treehouse with a soft golden haze. It touched the shelf of pine cones, making them gleam like polished jewels. It brushed over the curtains, turning the stitched stars into constellations that twinkled as if they were alive. It even spilled through the window, out into the forest, where the daisies turned their faces upward and sighed, as though saying goodnight. Nilo's whiskers twitched with the edges of a smile. His breath deepened, steady and calm, rising and falling in the same rhythm as the great tree of slumber he had just left behind. His tail curled tighter around his body, his ears drooped, and his paws flexed once as if clutching something precious, though in truth, he held only the warmth of peace. The forest outside seemed to lean closer to the treehouse, as if listening to his heartbeat. Rabbits nestled in their burrows stilled, their dreams glowing brighter. A family of foxes curled together in their den, twitching with happy dreams of play. The owl in the hollow oak nearby closed his eyes fully, letting the night carry him deeper into rest. Even the brook slowed its trickle, humming softly to itself like a bedtime song. Above, the stars glimmered, steady and kind. They seemed to bend lower toward the treehouse, their light softer now, almost like a blanket pulled across the sky. Constellations that had watched him on the star bridge seemed to linger, Orion's belt twinkling lazily, the Big Dipper tipping slightly as though spilling dreams instead of water. The North Star stood steady, a sentinel in the sky, whispering, "You are home." Inside, Nilo's body loosened further. His little shoulders slumped, his paws tucked close to his chest, his breathing so gentle it could hardly be heard. And then, as the final threads of wakefulness slipped away, the dreams began. At first, they were only shapes, clouds swirling, light shifting, golden ripples across an endless meadow. But slowly, they formed into something familiar. He saw the ribbon of light once more, stretching softly across the ground. He stepped onto it, though in the dream, his paws made no sound, only ripples of glow. The ribbon hummed quietly, the same lullaby that had carried him through the forest. The path led him back to the Tree of Dreams, but this time it was not distant, not high in the sky. It was just beyond the meadow, waiting for him like an old friend. The branches swayed with crystal chimes, and the lanterns hung low, close enough for him to touch. He reached out his paw, brushing against one, and it opened gently, spilling its light over him. The light filled him with laughter, children's laughter, the laughter of cubs and kits, the laughter of pure joy. It wrapped around him, and he carried it forward. He touched another lantern, and this one gave him the dream of sunlight through tall grass, warm and endless. Another filled him with the scent of clover. Another gave him the sound of rain tapping gently on rooftops. Each lantern added something to his heart, weaving him into the very fabric of dream. And all the while, the ribbon carried him onward, steady, patient, kind. When he reached the fountain of rest in the treetop village, the branch folk were waiting. They bowed to him, their forms glowing faintly, their voices blending in a soft hum. "You have returned," they whispered, though he knew this was only dream. Still, their presence filled him with comfort. They sang to him once more, their lullaby slower now, lower, until it blended perfectly with the rhythm of his breath. Beyond the fountain, the ribbon carried him higher, back to the star bridge. The constellations bowed again, their light flickering gently. The North Star pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat in the heavens, before settling into its steady glow. The bridge did not frighten him, even though it stretched across the endless night. It only felt like walking home, step by step, toward something warm and waiting. At the end of the bridge, the clouds parted. The crown of light appeared one last time, hovering above him, glowing not as a command, but as a promise. Its hum deepened, wrapping around him like a mother's arms, telling him he was safe, telling him he was held, telling him the night had given him all he needed. The crown pulsed once, then slowly dissolved into his chest, becoming one with the lantern glow he already carried. Nilo sighed deeply in his nest, his dream self curling tighter within the ribbon's glow. His whiskers twitched faintly, his paws flexed once, and then everything inside him went still, heavy, calm. The night had taken him fully, folding him into slumber so deep that even the stars seemed to sleep with him. The forest exhaled. The brook hushed. The daisies closed their petals. And the moon lowered its light, no longer needing to guide him, only watching tenderly from above. And in the quiet of the oak tree, inside the tiny wooden house glowing with golden warmth, Nilo slept. His body was small, but his dreams stretched endlessly, filled with lanterns, ribbons, fountains, and songs. He carried them all inside him now, stitched into his heart like his scarf around his neck. The night whispered over him, steady and slow, "You are safe. You are warm. You are loved. You are ready for the sweetest dreams tonight." And so the little squirrel rested, his treehouse rocking gently in the breeze, while the world wrapped him in silence, and the stars kept watch until morning.